Alrighty folks, I want to welcome you back to another video from Yates Computers Tips and Reviews. So now I got my capture card, I got it all set up, so now that I can go into actually showing you some of the little key differences in the BIOS settings. I know I've done little walkthroughs, little talks, little things about actually when you change drives. One of the main factors is if you go from a mechanical drive to a solid state M.2 drive. These are some of the factors you might run into where you might actually need to enter your BIOS. Some of the other little features you can do by entering your BIOS will help the speed of your computer in boot up. There's little factors you can do. There's some little things that you can do, but this is not really a thing you really want to play with too much. But this is something that is handy, and this is something that can actually save you a lot of money by knowing that you don't end up having to take it to a shop because you don't know how to do this little simple steps. But to enter the BIOS when your computer starts, there's different key commands due to which kind of computer. By the make, it's actually by the motherboard itself and the chips that are on there. Looks like most of them nowadays are like F12, delete, F10, escape, F1, F2, or the older style computers. You just press those when your computer boots. Usually it comes up with a screen similar to this. Now I will say, every BIOS manufacturer is different. This might look similar. There might be some that are just completely different that don't even look like this. The high-end gaming boards and other things will have a lot more settings and a lot more configurations in them than this does. This is just a standard laptop that I bought. This is the one that I had the unboxing of. The Windows upgrade to Windows 11 and all that on. So this is what this was purchased for, was for training and for when my laptop dies because it's falling apart. But this is so people out there understand the differences. So this is what your BIOS actually looks like. Once you enter your BIOS, you have this usually go to your main information. Has your computer information, has all the information you're going to need to know about your computer. Some of them actually, like if you have Dells and they have their support keys and all that stuff, is usually listed all in here. You can usually find that in case it gets damaged on the top, because that's part of the motherboard. Usually that's all put in there. In here you can see that there's a SATA port 0 and a SATA port 1, and it says there's nothing installed. So you can see the differences between a computer and this kind of a laptop. But then there's also the other tabs up top with a lot more features, a lot more things that you may need to be involved in. There's probably most likely you won't need to get in here and change any of these settings. This is just really when you've changed something and it does not seem to support what you like, or it comes up with some weird error. Usually you can go in here and check these, because maybe what happened is when they manufactured it, they disabled a feature thinking you're never going to use this feature. This one, you can see it has NVMe configurations. Older styles, a lot of styles that don't have that, obviously won't have that setting. But you may have a computer where you've gone from an old mechanical drive to the new NVMe, and you need to get in there and check some of those settings. This is where that comes important, especially nowadays, is that little upgrade factor. Maybe you have NVMe SATA and you're going to NVMe, sorry, not NVMe SATA, you're going to M.2 SATA. I know that's one of the big confusing things that I have a video on. Even I catch myself doing it, but the NVMe drive is different than a SATA drive. They both can use the M.2 port. I have a video also on that. So these are where a lot of these configurations come in. Some computers really do one thing that's really annoying that I find. They come preset where they try to do a network boot up. So it's looking through your network card and looking for a server with the server information to do a boot up. So you can actually go in there and turn some of these things off. There's all kinds of settings. Trusted computer, your thermals, so that's your fan settings. there's a lot of different configurations in here, so I wanted to do this little video to go through it. You have your chipset. You have security. Now, I did mention this one before. You can actually do a password in here that will ask you for your password before it even gets to Windows. Problem with this password is if you ever forget it, there's no way to recover. There's no way to bounce back. I have not found a way to wipe out this password here and there. But if you're in a situation where you you don't want anybody accessing that computer, there's no way you want them, maybe a government or something of that type of job, something classified, something really secret, that's a very good secure password way. Other than Windows passwords, that there's software you can break them, and there's other little tricks and stuff you can get in there with them. But here you come into your boot files. This is really one of the main reasons I actually use the BIOS and go into it, is usually due to this. As you can see in this order, how it's ordered. I don't like the order it's in by just looking at it, because it'll tell you it's going to go to the hard drive, then it's going to go to your network, then it's going to go to your NVMe, then it's going to go to your C drive, your DVD drive, to your solid states, I believe that's what the SD is, and then it goes through all your USB configurations. If I have an NVMe drive, I prefer to put the NVMe drive on the top of the list. I put what my operating system is there because these are all processes it's going to run every time you start your computer, so it starts a little slower. It has that little bit of time between the original BIOS flash that comes up that says Dell, Gateway, whatever your computer is, and when Windows starts. So this is a good way to speed up those configurations. So this is why I'm kind of doing this video, and because of nowadays probably a lot of people are going to be upgrading from solid state drives to the new drives that are out there, the SATA port, SATA M.2, or this M.2 NVMe drive. So these are some of the factors. I ran across this. I have a video on there about the Optiplex where I ran into this problem where nothing I did in here actually changed what and how the computer booted. I had to go through some other little steps. It wasn't that bad, but it was one of those little troublemaking things that even though you know what you're doing in here, sometimes it can be a little confusing and sometimes mess you up. As you can see, there's a quick boot and a fast boot. You can enable, you can disable those. There's different features when you do that. The fast boot and quick boot, what they do is they scan your system every time you start your system. A full scan to know all your different parts, everything. If you're really not changing parts, you shouldn't really need to do that. Once it knows what's there, it kind of briefly looks at it and moves on. It does not scan parts that it already knows it's there. These options will do that, where it'll scan those options that you know are already there. It may be something you choose to do. Most people don't do it because it's a longer boot time. And then you always have your save options. You have your recovery options. Usually you can see there's restore defaults, save as a user profile, restore user profile, discard changes, save changes. All of these little things you can do in case you change something and you mess something up and it doesn't boot. If it doesn't like the configuration, you go back in here, you change it back, you reboot up your computer. So that's one of the things I want to be careful on and warn everybody about, is you don't want to go in and change too many things and do too many radical things, because you can actually affect your computer where it will not boot. So I hope this was a good view of a BIOS. Like I stated, there are a lot different ones out there. If you go out and buy a nice fancier board where you get into overclocking CPUs, overclocking memory, and overclocking a lot of things like gamer-wise, it'll be a completely different setup. There'll be more options in there for power, for speeds, a lot of other things. But if you're a home user, business user, you don't really need to worry about any of that. But if you're a gamer, that's something that comes into play. So I wanted to do a quick video for people that usually don't do this. So let me wrap this up. I want to thank everybody for watching. Hopefully you all enjoy this video from Yates Computers Tips and Reviews. Hopefully you'll hit the subscribe, hit the bell, forward this link out to everybody you know. Let them know, hey, there's a lot of interesting content on this YouTube page. Thank you very much. I'll wrap this one up. Thank you.